Like the most critical moments are when you feel like you're about to give up. Youth is actually such a privilege, and you need to like abuse it. Like, why are you still have that? I do not want an AI system determining whether we should drop like a nuke or not, or something like that. Like right now, simulations are only good for one is safety. Biology is very slow.
Very slow.
The cycle is very slow. Yeah, from everything from like getting a grant to like getting. Hi, my name is Sean. I've wrestled for 8 years. I've been to 25 countries. I've been rejected by a lot of girls in high school. I want to learn from Santa Clara University. I actually failed 2 of my 4 classes. I had a few weeks where it was like hard to eat, hard to sleep. I stressed myself so much that I broke.
What did wrestling cost you physically, mentally, socially that people don't see?
I learned to be.
Welcome to Still Human, a bi-weekly podcast by Ocean Studio, featuring thoughtful conversation with builders, creator, and thinker working with AI in real life. Rather than focusing on hype or optimization, we explore how technology affects our time, focus, creativity, and sense of self, and where being human still matters most. I'm your host, Perkin. Today, I'm joined by Sean Wu, a Santa Clara junior who raised over $1 million for his robotics startup, built AI system processing 40 million documents a year for major banks, and won hackathon at NVIDIA. But before all of that, he was a varsity wrestler, learning that individual accountability and the ability to perform under pressure would define everything that came next. Sean, welcome to Still Human.
Thank you so much for having me. You find my wrestling background.
Yeah, no, it's everywhere on the internet. Okay, so the first question is, you're running a startup, finishing your degree, and just came off an NVIDIA internship. What does a typical week actually look like for you right now?
Okay, yeah. My co-founder Lucas and I, we have this schedule set up. At least it was working before winter break. Now we got to run it again. Every day we get up at around 7 or 7:30ish. We hit the gym. Monday, Wednesday, Friday is gym. Tuesday, Thursday swimming. And then kind of get ready for the day. And start working about 9 o'clock. Sometimes we be visiting some of our customers, so robotics companies in the Bay Area. Sometimes we're kind of just staying home. We're going to our WeWork office to get some works done. Sometimes it's about investor emails, business partnerships, could be building tech, working on ML research, etc. And it varies just week by week, day by day, honestly. And at night, I a lot of times I sleep over at my girlfriend Bella's, and then on weekends, sometimes we play some Fortnite, some Valorant. We just got into it like 2 months ago. It's the inner room. Those are the Jensen Sign GPUs back there, and then I guess we play Fortnite on it, and then sometimes I pull up to AI Club board meetings, and then Bronco Venture events, and chalkboard. Sometimes we still host events on like Sunday nights.
That's a lot. That's a lot of stuff.
Good
You have been like operating. I really admire how you be able to like find the balance between work and gaming, entertaining. I think that's like most of the entrepreneur, they miss that very crucial part, like relaxing and take time off a little bit.
I don't know. It's also about. It's more of like an energy thing.
Yeah.
I feel like like there are these waves, and then like if it's up. If my energy level is pretty high, I bang out a lot of emails. Like sometimes I wake up in the morning and the first like hour I'm just in bed like writing emails, and then sometimes if I'm just not feeling like doing much, like sometimes our team goes to the PC cafe nearby. It's called Cyber Raccoon. It's a bunch of people from Russia, Kyrgyzstan, and China just like yelling foreign languages and playing League of Legends. It's fun to go every now and then. It's pretty degen. Yeah,
that's very interesting. Okay, so before we talk about AI and startup, I want to go back to something most people won't ask you about, wrestling. Take me back to a specific match, not the lesson you learned, but the actual moments. Where were you and what do you feel about it?
Yeah, actually the most memorable times during wrestling, like during the matches, actually it wasn't the match itself, but before the matches, the preparation. I think usually up to like an hour before matches, I would kind of get in this mental state. I would like stop talking to people. I just like be in my own head, put a hoodie on, maybe sometimes if I'm feeling edgy. And then in my mind, practice over and over again. Just like imagining the moves that like my opponent would make. myself taking them down,
Hmm.
bring kind of the anger out of me. In wrestling, there's kind of this saying that you have to be like a Zen master and sadist at the same time.
Okay.
So sadist being like causing the maximum amount of like effort and pain,
Right.
like breaking your opponents down. A
Right.
Zen master meaning like all of your movements and choices are like calculated. Wrestling is a sport where is all the entire outcome of the match is like determined by you, your preparation, also your performance during the match.
Yeah.
There's
Yeah.
no one else to blame it on. And you
Oh
have to
yeah.
like take responsibility for it.
100%. Yeah.
Yeah.
I have a question. Yeah. Wrestling is brutal individual, no teammate to hide behind. When you lost and you had to walk off that mat with everyone watching, what went through your head? You're the only one on the entire court.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like I let my teammates down, but at the same time, actually, usually I feel pretty good even if I lose.
Hmm.
I think if I left it all out there on the mat, like if I like feel like I push myself beyond my limits, I actually feel very happy. I think that in life, a lot of times the results that kind of come out in the like the end results could
Yeah.
be like arbitrary sometimes. A lot of
Yeah.
times it's
Yeah.
by luck. It matters a lot if like you push yourself beyond your limits so much so that like if the next day my entire body is sore, I know that like I've given
It's
my
worth
all on
it.
the mat
Yeah.
and it
Yeah.
was like a really good match.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
similarly, actually,
100%.
like during the first quarter of my kind of like at Santa Clara University, I actually failed two of my four classes. Um,
Oh, no.
no, it was kind of rough. It was kind of rough. But it was because I was trying like so many things. I was like extracurriculars. I think I spent like maybe like five times as much time like
Holy
outside
shit.
of classes than like four classes. And stretched myself so thin between
Mhm.
activities and clubs and people that like I broke and like I had a few weeks where it was like hard to eat, hard to sleep, and then it was
Mhm.
like, but I came off that quarter even after failing two classes, like really happy
Mhm.
because I know that I stretched myself so much that I broke.
If you never gone into that dip, you never know how good it is to be up top there. So, what did wrestling cost you physically, mentally, socially that people don't see?
Cost?
Yeah, like what maybe like the lesson or like
Lesson?
the feelings.
Yeah, I think I learned to be comfortable with feeling uncomfortable.
Okay,
That makes sense.
that's actually awesome.
So physically, there's like dudes, just like fucking like grappling you and then like
Yeah,
throwing you
yeah,
around, things like
yeah.
that. Um, and so I think that built a type of kind of intensity and aggressiveness that is hard to learn in real life, unless you're like, I don't know,
Hmm.
maybe ROTC or like, I
Hmm.
mean, honestly, like a lot of sports kind of teach you
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
But I remember, and also I think it builds up like your balls just like not being ashamed because you walk on
Right,
the mat, everyone
right.
watching, and
Yeah,
some dude fucking
yeah.
like throws you,
No.
and so you get used to that.
Yeah.
Just trying and feel. So I feel like that's enabled me to kind of like go up to random people and like talk to
Hmm.
them without feeling too much embarrassment or like rather not letting that embarrassment like kind of hold me back.
Hmm.
I've also learned to, for example, when I first got my skateboard at this university, I saw a bunch of people skating around. I was like, oh, I gotta try skateboarding.
Yeah.
I fell, I think, around like 40 times. During the first week, I broke my laptop too, which cost me a bunch. But I remember a couple times like falling, like just like I ate shit like completely broad
Hmm.
daylight, lunchtime, the busiest times, like in front of Benson.
I've done
And
once as well.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah.
like fill off the entire crowd.
Yeah,
That's
it's
so embarrassing.
terrible. It's terrible.
Yeah.
But I feel like having done like wrestling and then like it's just like
Yeah.
like it's fine. You stand back up, you keep going.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
fine.
No. I
And
think
then
when you say about like things that people actually don't learn when they cannot go through that training process,
mm,
I think I have slightly experienced that when I'm trying to hit the gym more consistently.
yeah,
Like you see the result, the physical result that you gain muscle and you become stronger,
uh,
and you kind of like apply that mindset into whatever you do, right?
uh,
So I think like wrestling is like more intense and more of that, right? A lot.
yeah. It's
A lot
also
more.
like you can give it your all and still just like not win.
Hmm.
Sometimes the results aren't that measurable. It's more of like you have to be comfortable with your like the metrics that you set yourself and
Hmm.
like where you want to be. And also there's like a lot of moments you kind of realize that like it's a lot of times it's not just like like the most critical moments are when you feel like you're about to give up.
Yeah.
And I don't know how to like express how important this is, whether like it's like, being, I don't know, competing with people or even just like in general trying to like push your movement, right?
Oh, you touch on the part where into the next questions, you become so bold, like you would be able to walk up into any kind of conversation. You raised 40,000 in sponsorship for a student club, AI Collaborate. How do you pitch a vision to corporate executive when you're 20 years old and they heard 1,000 pitches?
Um, well, first of all, the fact that you're like 20 years old and then pitching something to them already puts you ahead of the curve, I think.
Hmm.
Um, I think the fact that you're young, I don't know, like youth is actually such a privilege, I
Hmm.
think. And you need to like abuse it. Like, why don't you still have that? No, seriously, like abuse your youth, right?
Uh-huh.
Just going to places because you're young and like, you're curious and eager to learn, you're hungry.
Hmm.
People will give you access, whether to their help or time or information or
Right.
resources
Right.
that, if you're 30, if you walk up, like, they already have expectations for you. It's
Hmm.
like, okay, like sometimes it's like, oh, if I help you, well, how would you help me back? But then
Hmm.
when it's young, it's just like, sometimes people see a version of themselves in you, and it's just,
Right.
you're
Right.
this guy just trying to like, learn and kind of make it.
Mhm.
And people give you just like so much extra access. So the fact that you're young and like pitching like already makes you like maybe, I don't know, some number times like
No. Yeah.
easier
Yeah.
to get what you want. And then the other one is just like, I don't know, bro. Look, I just beg.
Just back.
Yeah, bro.
Like keep going.
Yeah, bro.
Keep
I
asking.
just beg, bro. I'm like, please give me some. Yeah. And also, I think if you express like how passionate and excited you are,
Hmm.
and if you have like a very kind of like ambitious goal,
Hmm.
it's actually you find it funny. It's easier to get money for very ambitious things than to get money for like kind of like unambitious thing. Like in this course, for example, I feel like it's almost easier to get money like a couple $1,000s than to get it for like say like $20 or something. Actually, maybe I'm wrong. I'm probably wrong. I wanted to get all the kids like AI subscription tools and stuff,
Okay.
and then wanted to like maybe like get some robots for kids to like try
Mhm.
out, and maybe if
Mhm.
there's some more projects we can sponsor like AWS credits, etc.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah, for sure. Yeah.
it's just like the school's like funding system's kind of weird too. They have like specific buckets for specific things, and there's like no bucket for API credits or
Yeah.
anything like that.
No, by the way, I want to shout out to Seoka Center.
Yeah,
Because
shout out to CEO.
yeah, because it's them to help us fund so much, like
Yeah.
helping us like growing as a person and as a club and
Mm.
as an entrepreneur. They have so many resources and they have always been so supportive.
Yeah, dude, I attribute like maybe 20% of like my favorite traits about myself from the Sioka Center,
Okay.
like some of their programs and stuff.
And that's
So
very
yeah,
good.
they look
Did you
really
actually reach out to them, ask about like the company Symphony you're working on? Do they have any resource and access to alumni?
Yeah, so the Bronco Venture Accelerator is like a really good. Honestly, their BVA events have also been like pretty helpful in just connecting with people in general.
Hmm.
Bronco Venture Fund did put like a smallish check in us,
Hmm.
which is also pretty good. In our early days.
So can you walk me through how AI actually shows up in your day-to-day work right now? Not the press release version, the
Yeah,
real version.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Because we're trying to constrain or not constrain, like talks more about AI and on more human level in this podcast.
Yeah, yeah. Um, First of all, like the press releases are low-key like sometimes they're so shit, bro. If I see another like ad on Instagram that's like GPT 5.3
Yeah.
just broke the human barrier or something,
Yeah.
I'm gonna fucking
Yeah.
yeah.
We need some insider.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. But right now, some of our workflows, I mean, Claude Code, obviously, I think a lot of people talk about it now, but like we've been using it since a year ago.
Hmm.
Especially like during our hackathons and stuff.
Hmm.
Claude Code is really good, just as like a coding tool. V0 is really nice if you want to build any like sorts of web apps.
Hmm.
Um, and for us right now, I actually use Claude Desktop plus the MCP servers for Notion and Gmail, and hopefully in the future some like
Yeah.
tech
Yeah.
service to kind of like coordinate a lot of
What
our work.
which third party you use? Because I'm using Cloud Code for MCP with Notion as well. I'm using Zapier.
You're using Zapier? No,
Yeah.
I'm just straight up using the Notion MCP. Yeah.
Oh, straight
Yeah.
out. Okay,
Yeah, MCP. Yeah,
yeah.
yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
I need to
We're
figure
still
out
a
how
bit,
to use
no,
that.
no, no, bro. We're still a bit primitive compared to you, I think. But we have this like huge task list like
Yeah,
in
yeah.
Notion. And then
Well,
sometimes I just pull up in my phone. It's like, create this new task to follow up with um maybe this investor and then assign it to Cyan.
mhm.
And then it just like makes it in Notion.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
then we have these like daily meetings where like stand-ups, so it's like
Mhm,
20-minute meetings where we're gonna kind of, go over, hey, by the way, yesterday I threw this task at you, could you do
mhm.
it? And by the end of it, we have that like AI, meeting
Yeah.
summary. It goes right into our Notion. Sometimes I go like, hey, Claude, look through my latest emails from the last week and then kind of update our like
Mhm.
CRM list or
Yeah,
something
yeah.
like that. And it works really well. Honestly, like for this question, you should probably ask Maxime.
Maxine.
Yeah, he spends 4K a month on Manus credits, so much that like the founder had to like come interview him for the use
Okay.
cases.
Okay. Yeah. We'll get to him. I have more question on your startup stuff.
Mhm.
At Symphony, you're solving the sim to real gap. Robots trained in simulation, failing in the real world. Why is that problem so hard, and how does AI help?
Yeah. So to give kind of like quick rundown,
Mhm.
robotics, there's currently a new form of kind of intelligence emerging, and
Mhm.
kind of given the AI wave, robotics used to be more kind of like pre-programmed. It's like if this, then this statements and hard
Right.
coded. Robot comes here, robot grabs, robot moves over and drops down or something like that.
Mhm.
Um, but now, increasingly, people are starting to kind of train AI models and then have them operate these like physical robots, limbs, etc. And then a method, because data collection is so expensive for robots, some people create simulations.
Mhm.
So uploading a 3D asset of like the robot and it's like related physics into a virtual environment where you can kind of create different scenarios to simulate the robot and collect training data. Because these simulations are not completely physically accurate, it can actually only take these robots' accuracies, depending on the task, up
Mhm.
to maybe like, I don't know, 90% level accuracy.
Mhm.
And then at that point, if you keep make training a robot in simulation and making a robot perfect in simulation, it will actually turn out not too great in real life because it has optimized for the physics of the virtual world.
I'm kind of curious
Yeah.
when you say when you train it in the virtual world to make it even more accurate, and it's did the opposite in the real world.
Yes, past a certain amount. Say like in virtual simulation worlds can get you up to say 90% accuracy in the
Okay.
real world. Past that, if you keep kind of um, you're like optimizing the robot to work perfectly in a simulating environment. And
Oh,
because the
okay.
simulating environment
It's
is
not
different from
reflecting.
right, exactly. There's like
And what if like we
differences.
kind of make, I think they did this to apply the physical rules in the virtual world to make the robots, to make the simulation more accurate to the real world.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, everyone's trying to make it the simulations as accurate as possible. Right now, simulations are only good for so one is safety, making sure
Mhm.
the robot doesn't just like, if we know that there's a table in front of a robot, we don't
Yeah,
want the robot to like slam into this table,
yeah,
you know.
yeah.
So in terms of that, like keeps the robot from running into very obvious things.
Hmm.
And then also it's good for kind of testing hypotheses for research.
Okay.
So for
Hmm.
example, if you um want to test whether a robot could I don't know. Yeah, it's I'm not. It's stuff I probably shouldn't talk about. Um,
Hmm.
but yeah, it's just very quick. You can run quick cycles of data collection and testing
Hmm.
with simulation environments. Yeah, there's like the general public's understanding of robotics,
Hmm.
and then that's like maybe like 1 or 2 years behind what the robotics industry understanding of like robotics is.
Yeah.
And then that's like maybe like a year behind like the frontier robotics labs like understanding of it. So we're at a point where we're working with some of the people that are like literally driving the robotics industry forward. And then so now we're actually seeing a lot of new problems and bottlenecks for data solve. So maybe we keep doing what we do, maybe we pivot.
You're saying that there's a huge gap between the
Understanding and information.
frontier and the understanding.
Yes, yes, yes.
That's very
And
interesting.
there's a lot of, I think, assumptions within the field that are kind of just like, flying around and there's like echo chambers and
Interesting. Yeah,
and
it's
for the
very
first time,
interesting.
yeah, I realized how important like information access is.
Yeah.
Um,
Now I get you why you say you have to beg for things for access,
Yeah.
especially when you're young.
Yeah, exactly. I think talent is almost like everywhere.
Yeah.
Everyone can be talented. But I think opportunity and access is rare.
The other questions about the thing you worked before, you built a RAG pipeline for Citibank at AYR. Enterprise AI has zero tolerance for error. What did you learn about building AI system that actually work when failure isn't an option?
Um, Rack systems at that time were still like pretty janky. And even now, like new research has come out of like, once RAG database reaches a certain kind of magnitude of say like, I don't know, 10,000 documents per se, you basically can't really search for anything after. So that was, I think, a application of like a semi-mature technology that is now becoming obsolete as the LLM context windows sizes increased. Um, but um, yeah, no, I mean it's just for us it just like worked better than like humans or like faster than humans. Something that would take a human, maybe like a couple hours, a workflow that might take a human like a couple hours to sort through with like going through all the documents and reading them, etc. And then, you know, making sure they're compliant. RAG basically kind of like solve that. It's like I think when we talk about AI adoption, people need to be more kind of clear about like which aspects of AI are like kind of better than humans at, and which aspects, and then like which parts do you need to be more careful of, like in loop. For us, like the cost of like it getting it wrong actually wasn't that big because everything is you can kind of like trace back and humans can like double verify it. It just makes it like a little bit faster for humans to kind of use it as like a tool. That system definitely didn't deserve to get kind of like end to end like kind of privileges of just being able to like make decisions and take a go at it. But it did like drastically kind of speed up.
That's a really good experience to have that bigger enterprise experience, and like you can be wrong, or like it's not that easy to go wrong. But compared to doing your own startup or like learning through your journey, it's so much different. Like when you're doing your own stuff, it's always failing, and then you finally learn something and you keep going on.
I also think failure tolerance, like expectations for AI were not as high at that time. So like some failure is like tolerable, but like nowadays the expectations are like a little bit. So yeah.
Okay. People see the success, like, and your NVIDIA hackathon wins your 1 mil race and 99.9% accuracy model. What didn't work? What nearly broke you?
Oh, like everything else.
Everything. Like everything under the table.
Yeah.
Can you give me some like? Can you recall anything specific or like any big moments?
Yeah. I mean, for one, I was working on a project before, like very early on, my first like year or so. Oh my God, it's just the SCU chatbot project. That was so scuffed. We were doing a rag data. We ran a rag of like all the kind of SCU different. We had access to like different SCU websites to like essentially the database where they like keep all the content and the course catalog, etc. And we wanted to make like a chatbot to help students. And then I think we beat out like a bunch of groups within the school that were trying to do the same thing, which was pretty cool. Until the end, we were like competing with external vendors, and I'm like, at that point, it's like, yeah.
How long was the project?
Maybe like a year or so.
A year or so?
Yeah, and then different people kind of came and went.
You're competing with external at the final one?
Yeah.
So it's like a competition, like a hackathon, longer form.
Yeah, it's like a very long form
project
almost. Yeah. But okay, funny thing, at that time I've never built a website in my life before I started.
No way.
So
you were saying you're non-technical back there as well.
Yeah, dude, it was so cooked. It was so cooked. Yeah. I don't really think of myself as technical. I just kind of like, no. Like I think I just hang out with like technical people enough that like I learn from them. And,
okay, I think I did the same. I do the same.
Yeah.
Without you guys, I wouldn't start even this podcast or like start using, more different large language model or like start using MCP. Like it's getting me more into like learning different perspective or getting myself more like specialized or experience.
Yeah.
So it's definitely the top 5 people you around with.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, we iterated through like I iterated through maybe like four different like teams.
Hmm.
So it was so cooked. It'd be like I get everyone in this room. It's, hey guys, we're gonna make this chatbot. This is the first time. It was so cooked, but I have no idea like how to make a website.
Okay.
Yeah, I would just be like,
I feel like you got that leadership skills of
no, bro,
it's just like
it's so
it's your vision without knowing anything. You have to have that person, keeping everyone together.
it's so cooked. It was so cooked. Yeah,
Yeah.
I would go up to Benson. In Benson, I would go up to like random people. Look,
Yeah.
if they're wearing glasses and then like Chinese and Indian, and then look like they don't got like they have like a student visa, like prime.
No, usually they are nerd and like they are really
Yeah,
good
yeah,
at the
like
thing they
computer
do.
science,
Yeah.
probably.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's definitely a stereotype.
It was so bad.
The other thing like you built in the past was the GPT Prim Shot. It hits 10K per month in revenue. Then you move on Symphony, right?
Mm.
What actually happened there? How do you know when to pivot versus like keep doing persist?
Yeah, well, for that one in the end kind of became like a sales bottleneck,
Mm.
and I didn't want to kind of keep being like a salesperson. So,
Hmm.
and I realized that like my growth was like almost like limited by project. I think like whatever project you decide to take on, like it needs to be in direction that um like it needs to be in the direction of growth that like you want, right? Like so for Symphony, for example, I'm able to kind of I learned to like pitch to investors. I learned to kind of like convert money into momentum. I learned to get better at like gaining information and access. I learned to kind of really like double down on like products or visions that like work. I learned to deliver. These are all things I want to learn. And then,
Hmm.
um, bro, GPT print shop.
Is there a
Look
story
at
there?
no, not really. I mean, it's just like a simple like couple jerk offs, like make the website, and wrap it around like a diffusion model, and then
Hmm.
it was
Hmm.
they go out and ask for the user. It's so
For non-technical people where
Mm,
people don't understand, it
mm,
might be like, oh, they see like you're profiting, you have revenue. It's a thing, right? I
yeah.
think it's like real.
I mean,
Like,
I guess yeah,
yeah,
it's real. It doesn't need to be sexy
yeah,
to be
yeah,
AI.
exactly.
Yeah,
But what you say is basically, find a thing that you're really passionate about, like you want to keep doing it every day you wake up, right?
yeah. Mm.
So have you ever think of like committing to a project like lifetime or like a longer expand, like you see this, you see the vision in it and you're gonna to, really commit to it
Yeah,
no
look,
matter,
look
yeah,
at Symphony is it.
Symphony.
Yeah, because I've basically, I think the past like 2.5 years of
Mm-hmm.
my time at Santa Clara University, I've been like searching for a thing to do for like kind of almost
Mm-hmm.
like
Yeah,
for a long time,
right,
and
right.
kind of building the skills and the resources and the finding team members that would be
Mm-hmm.
necessary to kind of embark on that journey. Um, and yeah, when we won the NVIDIA hackathon and we kind of got to learn the talk to robotics customers and then learn about
Yeah.
like the United States' like kind of grand vision of like reindustrialization. We thought that like this would be a very um, this is a mission and cause that is worthy of dedicating at least a large portion of my time and youth and
Mm-hmm.
life to. I think. Um, and yeah, I think if there's a worthy cause, and then there's a lot to learn, and then
Yeah.
there's people around you that want to do the same, and then you have enough like edge and access and resources, then yeah, I think
That's really awesome. I
mm,
think like every college students, they're trying to like if they want to do their stuff or
mm,
like trying to find their passion, they're always finding something they really want to do throughout the
mm,
college.
mm,
I believe there's a lot of listener right now is like students where
mm,
people wanted to find something that really passionate about,
mm.
especially when they're still in school. What would be an advice that you would like, genuinely throughout the journey that you want to share
Well,
with?
I think that if you don't fuck around enough, you don't find out. And so therefore, by logic, if you want to find out, then you
Mhm.
must fuck around enough.
Okay.
Um, and I think that's like what I did. Like that's what I talked about in my first quarter, so
Uh-huh.
like failing two classes.
Well, to what extent you have to like fuck around? Like you obviously don't want to like get kicked
Yeah,
out
yeah.
or like drop out.
Yeah. It's like you have to fuck around in the general direction that you
General direction.
and you have no idea what like general direction you want to go in.
Mhm.
Just pick something that has like high utility and then go with it. And then I think along the way you'll find something
Does it
that's
always have to deal with money? Like no, like if like people say like you should choose the industry or like where the money goes. When you're trying to find a passion with things that
Mm.
does that always have to be like trying to, deal with the big topic, AI or like going to where the money goes
um I mean I think it's just easier in general.
easier?
Like I actually am a firm believer that you can develop a passion for anything.
Hmm.
Or it's like it's much easier to love the work you do than to like, you know, exactly like try to do the work you love. Um, I don't know, I think people could be different as well.
Yeah.
But I think that, you know, if I just like pick an industry that has like money in it or direction that has money in it,
Hmm.
um, and if I fall in love with something in there, like my life will be, like a lot easier than like if I
Hmm.
pick an industry that don't have money yet.
Well, like I did heard this perspective before, like
Mm,
there is no such passion for life. It's like
mm.
you start working and you have
Ye-
like that rewarding,
Yeah,
money
yeah.
reward or like whatever things reward and you get that passion going.
Yeah. I think a lot of people like are shy to like say it. Like money is really nice.
Yeah.
Like it's really fucking nice. And I
Yeah.
think, at least for me, like, like this is like being able to like after like dropping out, I'm realizing more and more like being to go able to go to school, like any school, especially a school like Santa Clara University, is like a real privilege. And like,
Tell me more about it.
I mean, just like, there's random places where like, I don't know, students get like a lot of discount to events or like you need to be a student in order to access. And also like if you talk to people, it's like, oh, like I'm a student, like they'll, see you a different way
Mhm.
versus like, oh yeah, I'm a software
Is
engineer.
is there is there any difference when you trying to send out a cold email compared now to
Actually,
back then?
yes. Being a student, I think increases the response rate by like a
Really?
shit ton. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Being a student represents that you have like future potential,
Hmm.
right? Whereas being, say, like a software engineer represents that like you are like your scope has been defined, right?
Mm.
Um, it's a feeling of like limitless versus like a feeling of like a path.
Hmm.
Also, just okay, another thing, abuse your youth and abuse your like student status while you're still can.
It's that as I
No, dude,
I'll
seriously.
keep a note on
Yeah,
that.
yeah. I think that if you have that privilege and you're not like abusing the shit out of it, then like I think that's like really disrespectful.
Hmm.
Yeah, to
Yeah.
like what you have and the opportunity that you're given.
What's something you intentionally keep human? Something you wouldn't want AI to touch ever, like ever,
Something like a trade or like a
or whatever it's on your mind. Whatever you
um
think like AI shouldn't be like involved. It can be a relationship. It can be, things that you really like to do manually, like cooking or,
decisions, almost like ethical, moral decisions. It would be really it would make you feel really uncomfortable if there are like very large kind of decisions that are made as like, I don't know, maybe as like an average of like the training data is kind of like average ethical moral kind of um yeah, constraints. Maybe in warfare, like I don't know, like I do not want an AI system determining whether we should drop like a nuke or not or something like that.
Mhm.
Like decisions that have like real impacts. Sometimes I don't know who I am.
That's out of
Sorry.
the blue.
Sorry. Yeah.
What do you mean?
Sometimes I feel like a small component or like a small kind of like, so like a screw or component of like a larger machine.
Hmm.
Like looking at, like human history and like the future. It's like I'm like a small component that is pushing forward kind of our evolution as a society. And as a ecosystem that eventually leads to kind of myself and the people around me being stripped away of their humanity.
So you start in wet labs, engineering fruit fly genetics at Stanford, analyzing cardiac data at Jefferson. Then you pivot to AI and robotics. What changed?
Um, Biology is very slow.
Very
The
slow.
cycle is very slow. Yeah, from everything from like getting a grant to like getting approval, getting equipment, and then
Mhm.
doing experiments, and then you know writing the paper, and then trying to get it published to someone reading it and it actually being useful is like too slow.
Compared to robotics.
Yeah, yeah. Well, that's different for like very very top tier researchers that
Right.
like they can make like huge impacts. But for me, I think I instantly knew that like um yeah, I want to do something where there's like visible impact.
Visible impact and like move faster,
Yeah, yeah,
keep
exactly,
seeing the little reward
exactly.
that
Yeah, yeah.
throughout the process.
Like
Yeah.
that, I have enough freedom to like fuck around in. Like I can't fuck around in biology.
Oh
Just
yeah.
follow the procedure.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
know, yeah, yeah,
Oh, okay. I see what
yeah,
you're saying. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. I know like you are a more, very entrepreneur
I
and
don't,
you,
autonomy. Yeah, yeah,
yeah,
autonomy. Yeah,
autonomy.
yeah,
Yeah, that's a word.
yeah. But,
So kind of build on that. You built tools for banks, healthcare, robotics. Is there a through line connecting all of this? What are you actually trying to do?
actually, not really.
Not really.
Like at a kind of at the level I think that you're insinuating, not really. Um, for me personally though, always I think it's actually less about what exactly it is that I do. I think it's more about, just it's always finding a group of people and striving and learning and growing and working towards a mission or worthy cause. I
Hmm.
think. I think it's always about that. And I think nothing beats that kind of life.
So it's more on the people you like meet in throughout the journey, and that brings you to whatever project that you
Yeah,
wanted to
exactly.
work on.
Yeah.
Okay.
Actually, I think like I care less about like what exactly it is that
Uh-huh.
like we end up doing, and I'm much more just like
Hmm.
the process is really fun, I think, and really
Hmm.
fulfilling.
A younger student were listening to this, someone who wants to build but doesn't know where to start.
Mm.
What mindset would you want them to carry?
I think a couple examples
Uh-huh.
um I want to give. One, I didn't drink coffee for 3 months when I was using kind of like the AI tool subscriptions and stuff because like some of them cost like maybe like $20 a month or something like that. And I was like, okay, I just won't drink coffee for 3 months, or something.
Mm-hmm.
And then
Hmm.
like that would work out. That's one. So, investing, I think, in yourself and your growth is much more important than I think in your comfort. Um, I think the second one is our first angel investor for Symphony. His name is Nick. He gave us $25,000. He was one of the co-founders of Zoom. Um, I met him after he gave a talk at Santa Clara University.
Hmm.
I ran after him and chased him down to his car and said, "Hi, my name is Sean. I've wrestled for 8 years. I've been to 25 countries. I've been rejected by a lot of girls in high school. Um, I want to learn from you. Could I have your phone number?" Like
That's
yeah,
the pitch you.
yeah. That's literally what I
No.
said. I think that mentality, like I didn't even know where I was gonna go, like when I
Hmm.
opened my mouth.
Hmm.
But like kind of and like after he left like the talk was still going and then the kids are still listening and I was like getting up and kind of everyone kind of looked at me like I was like crazy. So like that kind of like doing something, kind of putting yourself out there, doing something that even if other people don't think is like the maybe the appropriate thing to do. Okay,
Hmm.
that look that's bad advice.
No, it's not.
But
No, it's not appropriate.
like I think do what you believe in,
Mhm.
whether kind of like other people look at you different or not, and then you know relentlessly and aggressively chase after opportunities
Hmm.
and throw yourself in situations even if you don't know where you're gonna end up at. So
I think 100%.
yeah.
I think the line that, I want to learn from you, that's actually really powerful.
Mm.
Like, I think people are innate to like love to being learned and like love to, having people to learn from you. Um, that's really awesome. Because every time when I'm trying to pitch the thing I was doing, it always starts from my stuff and trying to pitch myself to them. But I think it always doesn't end well because like those investors or those people, they have heard so much pitch. But I think what really makes them remember you is how you like the way you did it. Like it's more on a human level. Like get yourself vulnerable and like, you know, connecting on a more human level.
Yeah,
You know.
Another thing I think finding mentors.
Hmm.
Beginning is actually there's this kid called Maxime. I'm sure you know of him.
Hmm.
He had, he's got maybe like 700K maybe ish users by
Hmm.
now on his like kind of huge tech spot.
Hmm.
Um, he gave me a lot of access to like some of his like tools in the beginning.
Yeah.
That's how like I knew about them. That's how I was comfortable with them,
Hmm.
etc. And then he kind of like taught me like a bunch of things in like software with teams, with, like B2C, etc. And there's also people like Blake Martin, Lucas Negretto, just like kind of great people that are where
Hmm.
you want to be.
Yeah,
You
no,
fun
the
people
people around you
yeah.
definitely affect you a lot.
Like you better be the stupidest person in the room.
Oh yeah, that's what
Yeah.
I'm keep telling myself as well.
Yeah.
So before we continue, I have a question passed to you from the previous guest, Michael Iwoshima. He asked, how will you or what are you doing to actually ensure the information you're getting is accurate and not being used against you in the context of AI? He talks about this like um, how do you fundamentally know what you believe as true and how that should influence your actions? Does that make sense?
Information from like a business level or from like a kind of almost like faith or foundational belief level, you know?
I guess you can touch both of them.
Okay. Low key, I think like at the foundational or faith level, sometimes I believe in like almost seemingly contradictory opinions that are a lot of times both true. So I think for this one is like it's much better to believe and bet on something than to like believe in nothing.
Hmm.
But and then the other one is like, you know, all information on the media
Hmm.
and like even with people it's like we're kind of like considering about people have like different perspectives, etc.
Hmm.
Like and also a lot of times it's like someone tells me like this person yada 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 but like and like gossip about them like a lot of times I wouldn't really like take it kind of
Hmm.
like face value just because I think
Right.
like a lot of things about people are disproportionate and like unrepresentative when it kind of goes out there. You gotta
100%.
like meet the person to know.
Yeah.
With business related information, I think it matters less that like if the information you receive is like accurate or not. I think if you keep just like doubling down, betting in that direction and keep going and not like fucking around and meeting people and learning and stuff, you'll
Mm.
eventually figure out whether that's like right or wrong. So it
Mm.
actually doesn't really matter if the information is right or wrong when you kind of first receive it.
Okay.
You'll figure it out anyways if you get as you get closer to the source.
I agree with that.
Mm.
So before we close, I ask every guest this.
Mm.
If you could leave one question for the next guest, someone else working with AI and building things, what would you ask them?
Who's the next guest?
I have no idea, but
Uh, a friend of mine, Blake Morton, asked me this. It's a really cool question. I want to pass it out.
Mhm.
What is one kind of like one moment in your kind of early life that almost defined all the action or like all majority of like your actions and perspectives and habits that you've had kind of down the line in your life? So it could be like a single moment, it could be kind of through a period of time, it could be a person,
Mhm.
it could be an event that kind of defined and drove you.
Mhm.
Kind of down the line. Yeah.
I didn't I like this one.
Yeah. I didn't
That's
think I
actually
have
good.
one until I thought a lot about it. So I think this is gonna
Mm.
be good.
Okay. So last one, the
Mm.
signature questions for this podcast.
Mm.
As AI become more present in our lives and work, where do you feel being still human matter most?
Um, hmm. A friend of mine, his name is Neil. He
Mhm.
thinks a little differently than I think a lot of people I know. Um,
Yeah.
but he used this term called I think memology or
Memology.
something about memes.
Mhm.
Memes not like the funny shit, like,
Yeah.
scrolling Instagram videos going not that one. It's like the a meme is something that is uh, that doesn't need to be explicitly said, but can be implicitly understood. Um, and I think the ability to create memes is critical to, I think, bringing people together and enabling them, and kind of, I think, driving a movement. I think as I'm getting in touch with some of the robotics companies I work with, and like also talking to kind of the source of where things happening in kind of Silicon Valley history, like with like early OpenAI people, with NVIDIA people, um, it's a pattern that I keep seeing over and over again of like great organizations or teams being able to kind of create the idea of something that they're kind of working towards, or like what they're doing, without kind of being implicit, explicitly expressing them. I think that ability is going to be extremely important.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I covered most of the questions, and I think everyone loved what you're doing. And like if the listener want to know more about you, where can they find your work, or
Shit.
how to get connected?
I don't know, bro. Ping me on LinkedIn or my email. I don't know, Sean at symphony.co,
Okay.
Sean 1920.
Okay.
But just ping me on LinkedIn or some shit.
Okay. Yeah. All right. Thank you for being here.
Okay.